Number 8. Alicia Canals McGuire. On December the 20th of 2017, Jerridan Phelps, along with a female accomplice, carried out a contract killing at the behest of 31-year-old Kevin Lewis. The latter had allegedly plotted revenge against his ex-wife, Amanda Canales McGuire, after she'd pressed charges against him in connection to a violent domestic assault. The abuse accusations had ultimately resulted in him receiving a 39-month prison sentence. Upon being solicited to help the disgruntled man in an alleged murder-for-hire plot, 20-year-old Phelps, along with his teenage girlfriend, visited Canals McGuire's home in Snohomish County, Washington. Unaware of the fact that their intended target was actually out of town, the pair opened fire on 24-year-old Alicia Canals McGuire, her sister, who was house-sitting at the time. Although the pair managed to flee the scene undetected, they were eventually apprehended after Phelps's girlfriend boasted about the murder to a group of friends. During a subsequent interrogation, Phelps admitted that he'd been hired to kill Lewis's ex-wife in exchange for $2,400. The young man and his girlfriend were held in custody on a $5 million bail. Lewis, who was already incarcerated for assaulting his ex-wife, consequently faced additional criminal charges for his part in the mistaken murder of his former sister-in-law. Number 7. Bethany Farber. While traveling to Mexico for a family vacation, 34-year-old Bethany Farber was arrested by TSA agents at Los Angeles International Airport and told she'd be extradited to Texas for a crime she didn't commit. The California aesthetician repeatedly told airport officials that she'd never even been to Texas and that they had the wrong person. Nevertheless, Los Angeles police officers handcuffed Farber and booked her into a local jail on April the 16th of 2021. It would take 12 days for authorities to validate the woman's identity, during which time she remained in custody, having been denied bail. Following her eventual release, Farber filed a civil lawsuit against the Los Angeles Police Department for wrongful arrest and detainment, claiming before the court that the officers hadn't made any effort to verify her identity while they were arresting her. Farber's attorney produced photographs of both her and the woman the police had actually been targeting, who was also named Bethany Farber. The visual presentation was conducted in order to strengthen his claim that the officers had acted with deliberate indifference and conscious and reckless disregard to the safety, security, constitutional, and statutory rights of his client. In the controversy's wake, the LAPD refused to issue a statement to the press, claiming that the ongoing legal procedures precluded them from commenting on the case. Number 6. Lewis and Ashley Dale. Siblings Lewis and Ashley Dale were both murdered in the Liverpool area in what police believe were a pair of mistaken identity shootings that occurred 7 years apart. The first incident took place in November of 2015, when 16-year-old Lewis was confronted by brothers Paul and John Martin near the Leeds-Liverpool Canal. Accompanied by accomplice Jake Culshaw, the brothers fatally shot Lewis, believing him to have been a rival gang member on account of his curly hair. A year later, the three co-conspirators were sentenced to 88 years in prison for the inadvertent murder. Ashley Dale would go on to suffer a similar fate as her brothers on August the 21st of 2022, when two men barged into her back garden and started shooting indiscriminately. She was still alive when emergency services arrived at the scene, but died from her resulting gunshot wounds soon after arriving at the hospital. Although the police initially developed the belief that the deadly attack had been targeted towards Ashley, further investigation into the matter revealed that the 28-year-old woman hadn't actually been the shooter's intended victim. Detectives handling the case requested that any witnesses who might have seen the attackers fleeing from Ashley's house contact local authorities to aid them in their efforts to identify the suspects. Number 5. Angela Dalman. While walking outside her apartment building in Langford, Canada, 40-year-old Angela Dalman was shot to death by a complete stranger. On March the 6th of 2020, the alleged assailant, 36-year-old Anthony Deanshaw, didn't exchange any words with Dalman leading up to the fatal attack, nor did he take any valuables from her. According to subsequent reports on the matter, the shooter had been attempting to take revenge on Derek Oke and his girlfriend, Kelly Groves. Deanshaw had been staying at Oke's home when his friend asked him to leave because he and Groves were planning on moving out themselves. After Deanshaw refused to abandon the property, and while he was allegedly consuming illicit substances, Oke and several unnamed men attacked him and forced him out of the apartment. Dalman was said to have shared a close resemblance with Groves, the intended victim of the shooting, and had shared drinks with the couple during a farewell party. Deanshaw thus mistook the innocent woman for his friend's girlfriend and gunned her down in cold blood. The same night as Dalman's murder, Deanshaw reportedly located Oke, but was unable to take proper aim at him with his weapon, subsequently abandoning his attempt to kill him too. The man was arrested the following day. He ultimately pled guilty to both attempted murder and second-degree murder, and in August of 2022 was consequently sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 14 years. Number 4. Sierra Wells. On March the 21st of 2022, Michigan resident Sierra Wells was driving along a Detroit roadway with her mother and younger sister when a bullet struck her in the back, prompting her to lose control of the car. Sierra, who had turned 20 the previous day, consequently crashed into a tree and was unresponsive by the time first responders arrived at the scene. The victim's mother, Yakita Wells, who had been the one to call the authorities in the wake of the shooting-induced crash, later testified that Sierra told her she had been shot moments before fainting. Sierra, who was Yakita's oldest daughter, ultimately passed away on her way to the hospital. Police were able to apprehend the shooter, 19-year-old Marion Johnson, along with a second unnamed suspect later that day. They had reportedly utilized a gunfire locator, which led them straight to the suspect's home. Johnson had been involved in an accident with a vehicle of similar color and make to Sierra's earlier that day and had sought revenge. He admitted to using a high-powered rifle to fire at the car, which he'd noticed driving past his residence. Johnson was indicted on several charges, including first-degree murder and assault with the intention to murder. His criminal trial, presided over by Judge Kenneth King, was expected to begin on April the 14th of 2022. Number 3. Eddie Clark. On May the 17th of 2021, 4 members of the Argueta family from Houston, Texas, allegedly conspired to commit a revenge murder. Leading up to the family's drastic decision, 39-year-old Florinda Argueta had filed several police reports in which she claimed that someone had repeatedly fired gunshots at their home and vandalized their automobile. She reportedly accused her son's ex-girlfriend of being the culprit responsible for harassing them. Florinda's 19-year-old son, Joe, testified that he'd seen a black Dodge Charger driving away from their residence following several of the alleged incidents. On the day of the family's attack on their serial tormentor, Joe, along with his father, Luis, and uncle, also named Joe, saw what they considered to be a suspicious car near their home. Although it was a dark gray Dodge Challenger, a different model from the one Joe had previously identified, the 3 men decided to give chase anyway. Carrying with them a baseball bat and a gun, the Challenger's driver, 29-year-old Eddie Clark, tried to get away from the Arguetas, but was subsequently shot in the abdomen, causing him to crash into a tree. Clark's 3 pursuers continued following him as he got out of his disabled vehicle and fled on foot. He eventually collapsed to the ground, allowing the family to catch up with him. According to accusations leveled by the prosecution, the Arguetas demanded to know who had dispatched Clark to mess with them, but he was too severely injured to respond. The victim was still alive when police arrived, but he succumbed to his wounds before reaching the hospital. Joe and Florinda Argueta were arrested on the night of the murder and subsequently released on bail pending their trial, while Luis and Joe's uncle remained on the run. Number 2. Jody Chesney. Essex College student Jody Chesney was enjoying a night out with her classmates on March the 1st of 2019 when she was stabbed in the back by a pair of young men. Chesney had reportedly been sitting in a park along with several friends when the 2 assailants, Aaron Isaacs and Svensson Ong Akwi, approached her. Mistaking her for a rival gang member, Isaacs and Ong Akwi who allegedly sold illegal substances in the area, believed their rivals were trying to move in on their turf, prompting them to fatally stab Chesney in retaliation. The victim's friends witnessed the attack and quickly called for help as the young men fled the scene. Chesney's injuries ultimately proved too severe and she died en route to the hospital. Clara Sharp, one of the classmates who'd been with the victim on the night of the incident, told investigators that Chesney had screamed in pain upon being stabbed but then grew quiet and unresponsive. Detective Inspector Perry Benton, who headed up the investigation, indicated that they initially struggled to identify the suspects. There was very little evidence for the police to go on, given that there existed no apparent connections between the victim and her attackers. When Isaacs and Ong Akwi were finally identified and officers were sent to arrest them, they both unsuccessfully attempted to flee by way of a fence in the backyard. The two suspects blamed each other for the murder during their subsequent criminal trial, a strategy that proved fruitless in their defense efforts. The jury deliberated for 6 hours before coming back with a guilty verdict. Isaacs was consequently sentenced to a minimum of 18 years in prison, while Ong Akwi was ordered to serve no less than 26 years behind bars. In the victim's honor, her father founded the Jody Chesney Foundation, an institution meant to educate parents and teenagers on the dangers associated with knives. Number 1. James Rynerson. James Rynerson was accidentally released from prison on May the 21st of 2018 after being mistaken for fellow inmate Marvin March. The two men had briefly shared a cell while serving their respective sentences in Mesa County, Colorado, but March was transferred to a different sector of the institution sometime before his release order was issued. As the records had not been properly updated, 38-year-old Rynerson, who'd been arrested on charges of menacing, disorderly conduct, and trespassing, was mistaken for his former cellmate. The bailiff and booking technicians tasked with facilitating the release made no attempts to validate the inmate's identity, failing to check his wristband or the picture on his file. Rynerson went along with the mistake, going so far as to sign March's name on the release papers. He was given his former cellmate's debit card and leather jacket and left the prison at around 9 p.m. on the 21st. 2 hours later, however, Rynerson was returned to the authorities by his wife, who'd noticed him walking into their garage and questioned the reasoning behind his premature release. In the wake of the incident, additional charges were brought against Rynerson, including forgery, criminal impersonation, theft, and escape. Thanks for watching. Would you rather be mistaken for a serial molester or be allergic to TV screens? Let us know in the comments section below.